Now, who am I best to ask around a relatively recent agency announcement in relation to transport funding for support workers? Who would that be best? Yes, so could you first of all just clarify for me the nature of the announcement and what the change potentially means for participants?
Senator, are you talking about the most recent one in February?
Yes, to do with the ability to access core support funding for the transport costs of support workers.
So it was announced that there'd be increased flexibility in a participant plan. There'd be increased flexibility in the plan for the provider to claim for vehicle running costs if the transport was connected to a community participation or some other activity funded in the participant's plan, in addition to the support worker's time. That transport addition or support is paid at a per kilometre rate, and it's a different rate depending upon the type of vehicle. And also, it was possible to claim on other associated costs such as road tolls, parking, public transport fares.
Bits and pieces like that.
Yeah.
And so, just to clarify, so that now means that I'll use myself as an example. If I want to attend a dance class, which I'm a dancer, as you can tell by my physique. If I want to attend a dance class and I need a support worker to help me get there,
I'll drive you.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Community sports, they're important.
That would be an in-kind support. So that would be something that I could potentially access my core support funding to pay for the travel costs of that support worker. Now, in terms of...
Sorry, Senator, I do have to clarify.
Yeah.
Only if that dance class was itself a funded support.
Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Hoffman. So, if that is not a, so it's a funded support, yes. But is there a connection to whether or not that dance class is provided by the service provider that is also employing the support worker?
No, that's not a requirement or a linkage.
Oh, okay.
That's there.
So you're telling me that as long as I have identified it beforehand as something that I want to do in terms of participating in the community...
And it's a funded support activity.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't have to be the same provider who's doing the support worker who's driving you and assisting you to get there.
All right, well that does need clarification then, because we still have a scheme, one of the goals of which is increasing the economic participation of participants. And I'm wondering then, if I'm getting that support worker to support me to attend the dance class, and the dance class is a regular community, just a regular community thing, am I still then able to access my core supports to attend that?
No.
So only if it is a specialist disability service?
Funded support, that's right.
Funded support.
Yeah.
If it's not that, then what support exists to enable me to attend such an event or workshop?
So there are a range of other transport supports. This was the announcement in February, which is why I asked earlier about whether it was just that announcement. So there are a number of things that we do, but last year we did a range of things. We uplifted the level of support in participants' plans who were heavy users of transport to make sure they had enough money in their plans. We also, though it may not be directly related to this, but if you're a taxi subsidy user, then we entered into an arrangement with the states and territories that we would subsidise their taxi subsidy schemes until October 2021 while we work out the longer term arrangements. And then there are a range of other transport supports that you may well be familiar with, Senator, such as we can teach people how to use public transport, we can teach them how to drive, we can modify a car through the AT assistance scheme.
Okay, my concern there is that it's roughly about, if you go to the top level of all of those forms of support that you're talking about, it works out at about $66 a week for support for transport. And my concern, this goes back to the point about economic participation, is I wonder whether you've thought through the potential impact of this change, as well intended as I'm sure it was. It actually incentivises the participation of the involvement of a participant in a activity in the community that is disability specific or funded support, as opposed to a regular community activity, which ultimately for the long term, we can have a conversation about mainstreaming in community and all the rest of it, but ultimately for the long term financial viability of the scheme, what you want to be doing is promoting people to go into the community and participate in whatever form of activity works best for them, not incentivising them towards a specialist disability service provider activity.
So, Senator, I'd need to check our guidelines for sure, but I don't think that would be our intention at all, because
it's not your intention.
and
It is, but it is the way it works.
is the way
And
yeah.
I acknowledge, we've had the same debates internally. I acknowledge this point. I think you've analysed the potential incentives correctly, and it is something that we are considering in the agency with the department now. I think we've got to look at it in the context of the more general move towards greater plan flexibility in general.
Yes,
because one of our problems, causes multiple problems, is ever more fine slicing the salami, causes uncertainty for the participant, work for us, and so on and so on. So this is the direction the Minister's already flagged in terms of greater general flexibility to use the bucket for whatever the person thinks in choice and control makes sense.
Yeah, so is this then something that you might be reviewing reasonably soon to remove the distinction?
So it's not for me to make a sort of a policy announcement here, etc., but I acknowledge the issue that you have analysed is one that I've thought about personally myself and asked about, and it is one that we are considering, but it's not for me to make a policy call here.
Is that something you can take back to the Minister as well?
Look, absolutely,
Minister
and I don't know that I'll be able to respond as quickly for that one as I have from this one, but the Minister's already advised that the tune review is likely to be released next week, and in conjunction with it will be the exposure draft in relation to the legislation that will be required for the performance guarantee.
Okay. Thank you very much. I also want to flag, I should, because it's a community that we don't hear from, the other challenge with the current structure is that if you are somebody that is bedbound, for instance, and what you are needing to cover is perhaps the cost of a service or a support worker that needs to come to you because of the nature of your inability to leave the house, there are also challenges there. But I'm glad to hear that it's on your radar.